Hello, everybody. It's Gary Stuckey with Real Music. Hope you're doing okay wherever you are today. Got a great guest today. Award-winning honky-tonk artist Justin Trevino has released One Tear at a Time, the acoustic sessions, available for streaming right now on Star Vista and on CD via Heart of Texas Records. It's his first acoustic collection, and the album features all new recordings of 15 songs he has loved performing throughout his career, along with 4 new songs and a bonus track, which is the album's only one recorded with a full band. And yeah, check it out. Check out his website for more information. But here we go. Here he is. Here's Justin Trevino.
Well, I guess we'll go and get started since you have a busy day today.
Yeah.
So brand new album is called One Tear at a Time, the acoustic sessions. That sounds very cool. The acoustic sessions. And by the way, your voice you got a great voice, perfect for songs like these. So how did you decide to pick out these songs, and why this album? Why did you record this album?
This is my 16th album, and the other 15 are all very similar stylistically to each other, in that they're a lot of Ray Price shuffles, kind of that honky tonk sound with the twin fiddles and the steel guitar and the driving rhythm sections. And these songs that are on this album, One Tear at a Time, are a lot of the songs that I have enjoyed playing acoustically at guitar pulls and jam sessions, and just when somebody puts a guitar in my hand and says, sing one. And a lot of these could certainly be done with a full band, but they also lend themselves to acoustic treatment. So I had it in mind to do an acoustic record for several years, and just kind of hadn't gotten around to it. And so finally, about a year ago, I thought, okay, let me get serious about doing this. And so I would say that probably 15 or 16 of the songs are songs that I've been singing since I was a kid. There are 4 new songs on the album, 3 that I wrote, and 1 that was written by Bill Anderson, Bobby Tomberland, and Walt Aldridge. That song is called Right About Now. So those are the 4 new songs on the 20-song album. Everything else is kind of my go-tos that I like to sing when I'm just sitting around picking. I try to pick songs that are lyrically strong, which I always do anyway, even when we make the honky tonk records. But especially for this record, I tried to pick songs that were strong lyrically.
Right. And the song, now I like the song "She Knows My Weaknesses."
Yes.
That's a pretty song. Now that probably had a special
let me tell you,
meaning to you, right? What's story behind
that song? Was written by my dear friend Kent Finley from Martindale, Texas. Kent was a wonderful songwriter, and he's no longer with us. I recorded that song for the first time 23 years ago, back in 2001. It was on an album called Traveling Singing Man. And to this day, it's my favorite song that I've ever received from a writer. And so when I set out to make this album, I thought, man, She Knows My Weaknesses would be perfect. And because it is my favorite song that I've ever gotten from somebody, I wanted to cut it one more time. And Kent's no longer with us. I'm still close to his kids. Jenny Finley is in the record promotion business, and Halliana Finley is a singer-songwriter. Sterling Finley also writes and sings and plays bass. All of those kids are musical, and they've kind of followed in their dad's footsteps. But boy, I love that song. I really do. And that's why I wanted to cut it one more time.
And that's got to mean a lot to them, though, to hear you do that song and do it well. And it's got to be special to keep that music.
I think so. We've had a lot of great conversations about Kent. Kent was actually from this area where I am. It's kind of ironic. We lived in the same town in Martindale, Texas, but he was actually born not far from Brady, Texas, in Fife. And Brady, Texas is where I live now. And if you can imagine, these two towns that I'm talking about are about 120 miles apart. So it's kind of ironic that we knew each other from one place, and I wound up in the town where he was originally from. That's where I live now. So kind of strange.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about the song "What If the Tables Were Turned." Now that's
Yeah.
there's a story
Yes.
behind it, right?
Absolutely. So Curtis Potter was one of my favorite singers, and somebody that he was my favorite singer before I ever met him. And then we wound up working a lot of dates together. I produced one of his albums. We worked together a lot. And one morning, I was getting ready. We were doing a show in Seguin, Texas that afternoon, and Seguin is about 3 hours from here. And I was getting ready that morning, and I just got kind of sentimental, thinking of how lucky I was to be working with one of my heroes. And I started writing this song while I was in the shower and getting dressed. By the time I got dressed and got on the road, I had the whole song written. And I told Curtis when I saw him that afternoon, I said, "Man, I wrote a song for you this morning." And he said, "Let me hear it." And so I sang it to him. He loved it, and he said, "Send it to me." So I sent him the demo. And sadly, Curtis passed away before we got to make another record. So I always kind of knew after Curtis passed, I thought, well, I'll record it myself someday, and try to kind of envision how Curtis would have cut it had he had the opportunity to have recorded it.
Right. That's you know, it's tragic, but it's special that you got to finish that and people get to hear that and keep that music going.
Yeah. I wish he could have recorded it. I probably still would have recorded it myself at some point, but I would have loved to have heard Curtis sing it.
Right. The song "Jealousy Insane." Now,
Mm-hmm.
what's the story behind that?
Well, Johnny Bush was probably my biggest influence in this business. Another man who I looked up to very much before I ever met him. I wound up being in his band as a bass player and frontman for 11 years, produced several of his records. Even after I left the band, I continued to produce records for him. And we remained close until his passing. He passed in 2020. And in 2019, okay, so Jealously Insane was a song that John had written and recorded on his very first album. That album was called Sound of a Heartache. That was back in 1967. The song only had a verse and a chorus, and then they played the turnaround and they repeated the chorus. Well, John always said, "Man, Jealously Insane needs another verse." And so in 2019, he wrote a second verse and he started singing it on the bandstand. But again, he never got to record that. And I felt an obligation to preserve it because I remember the words to it. And I'm probably the only person besides John that knew the words to the second verse. So I wanted to get that down, before I forgot them. And that way it's kind of been preserved for the future. John was very special to me, man. He was a good man. He got me my first record contract before we were with Heart of Texas Records. We were with a label out of Austin, Texas called Lone Star TMG. And that was back around 2000, 2001. John got me my first record deal with those folks. And then we came on with Heart of Texas about 2004, I think. But John was a good man. I miss him every day.
Awesome. That's you run into a lot of people when you're doing music, and you have special relationships with all these people, and I know it means a lot. Yeah. And you have a lot of memories of these people that you worked with through the years. And
I do.
Right?
I do. And it kind of, I get melancholy because I was always kind of the kid. I'm 51 years old, but all the guys that I've worked with are 20 years, sometimes 30 years older than me. And so I've lost way too many of them, but
right.
But we're still picking.
That's right. Got to keep going. Keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, tell me this now. You started out pretty young, I guess, in the music business. Yeah. How old were you when you realized that you wanted to sing country music?
Oh my goodness. I told my parents when I was 6 years old, I told my parents I wanted to be a singer. And I got a guitar for my birthday when I was 7, started taking lessons, and of course they were teaching me chord progressions to songs, so it was only natural that I would sing along while I played. And
Right.
so yeah, I just that's all I ever wanted to do.
Right. And the other kids were out, I don't know, playing baseball or something.
Doing whatever they were doing. Sure, sure.
And you're like, I want to be a singer.
Yeah.
But what kept you going through? And there had to be ups and downs when you're starting out. A lot of people, they'll try this or they'll try that and realize it's just too tough. Why did you keep going despite whatever, the ups and downs?
Man, I guess I didn't know any better. No.
Is that nobody told you differently?
No, yeah, nobody told me any different. No, I didn't really think of it that way. We were booking jobs and playing honky tonks and dance halls, and when I went to work for Johnny Bush, that was a big shot in the arm. It kind of got me to another place where we had been playing kind of the neighborhood bars around Austin and Lockhart and San Marcos and Luling, and playing those places where you probably couldn't put 50 people in a room. And so when I went to work for Johnny Bush as a front man, that meant I would do the first set and then we would bring him on. Well, he put me in front of bigger crowds than I had already, and he used to always say, well, I can't say I discovered this young man because he was already going when I met him. But the truth is, he put me in front of bigger audiences than I think I ever could have gotten. I don't think I could have done that without his help. And so that kind of got me to another level as an entertainer and also as a musician because the bar, as a bandolero, the bar was a little higher than some of the little beer joint bands that we had prior to that. So
right.
Once that happened, once I went to work for John, there was no turning back. I knew that this was what I was going to do.
Right. And you were named after Justin Tubb, right?
I was. Justin was my dad's favorite songwriter. And for those who don't know, he was the firstborn son of Ernest Tubb and a great singer-songwriter in his own right. Probably his biggest copyright is a song called Lonesome 77203 that was recorded, #1 record for Hawkshaw Hawkins, then recorded again by Tony Booth. Loretta Lynn had a recording of it. Daryl Clanton had a recording. Of course, Justin recorded it himself. But he had a lot of other great songs in addition. Love Is No Excuse was one that was a big hit for Jim Reeves and Dottie West. Anyway, Justin was a great, great songwriter, a great singer too, and a great guy. Justin actually wrote the liner notes, and boy, this seems like a common theme, and I hate to keep doing this. Justin wrote the liner notes for my very first album, and then he passed away before that record came out. So wow. Another one, and he passed away too young. He was only 62. He had a stomach aneurysm, and they told him when he went in for surgery that he had a 50-50 shot, and he didn't make it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Bad. Yeah. Well, and you sound like you're an encyclopedia of country music history. Is that the case? Do you know every little detail?
I've managed to retain a lot of it. I find the older I get, some of it's starting to kind of slip through my fingers. I'll think, man, was that Harlan Howard or Hank Cochran? I start questioning myself. But yes, in my life, I've known a lot of superfluous country music trivia.
That's good. That's good. You have to go on a game show one day or something.
If you remember back in the early 1980s, and I was too young or I'd have done it, Bill Anderson hosted a country music game show called Fandango. Okay. And I would have done really well as a contestant, but they don't have one of those now.
Somebody needs to start that back up.
If Bill ever brings it back, I'll be there.
Well, maybe he will. Well, tell me this: what has been one of the highlights of your career that makes you smile when you kind of think about it? Through all the years, what's something that really stands out in your career?
Oh man, when the when the Traveling Singing Man album was out back in the early 2000s,
Mhm.
Eddie Stubbs took a liking to it, and he took a liking to me. And there was a song on that album called "You Can't Get Here From There." He played that thing on WSM about, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week for at least a year. And of course, I was his guest, not only promoting that album, but promoting a couple albums after that. Being able to host the Midnight Jamboree, which I hosted on a regular basis back in those days, at least once a year. A lot of things. Going to Sweden a couple of times and performing in Sweden, that was a lot of fun. Performing in Scotland, and again, my time with Johnny Bush is something that I really cherish.
Awesome. And you were talking about you've recorded 16 albums, and
Yeah.
you've won all these awards. I mean, like the CMA of Texas Artist of the Year. You were just presented the Cowtown Society of Western Swing Hall of Fame Award, and you've won awards for producing albums too. How many albums have you produced?
That I don't think I could count.
Wow.
It's easy to count my own, but
Right.
if I try to think back of everybody's I've produced and how many, there's, a lot of people that you've heard of, and then I've also produced records for people that you've probably never heard of, and
Right.
I never really kept track. If somebody would hire me to make a record, I'd make them the best record that I could make, and then go on to the next one. So boy, I'd be hard pressed. I could try to figure that out, but I couldn't have an answer right off the top of my head.
Right. Well, that sounds like an accomplishment if you can't
Well,
remember.
I started doing that in 1998. So what is that? 26 years ago, I think. Is
Right.
my math right on that? I think so.
You're
So
correct.
yeah, I've been doing it for a long time.
That's that's a big deal though. I mean, what part of producing is the hardest for you? I mean, what exactly
The
um
most tedious part of it is mixing, because I'm also the engineer.
hmm,
And mixing is the most tedious part. Recording is the most fun, because that's when you've got all the musicians in the studio and everybody's having a big time and all that. Then everybody goes home and I sit there by myself for hours. Oh, everybody feels sorry for me. I
okay,
sit
right,
there by myself for hours on end, just trying to get good mixes and make everything, as perfect as I can possibly make it. So mixing is the most tedious part of it. I won't say that any of it's really hard necessarily, but mixing can be tedious work.
right. Yeah, I've tried to mix my own recordings, and I'm not. That's something I don't like to do or I can't do. But I think you have to have a special gift to hear, the just right sound of where you want it to,
Yeah,
what
and
you want it to be.
sometimes you might know where you want it, but you feel like you're almost there, but you're not quite there. And then sometimes you have to just go, well, this is as good as it's going to get.
Right, right,
Um, there's how sometimes if you're reading and you read a page of a book and then you realize that you don't remember what you just read.
right.
That happens to me sometimes. I shouldn't admit it, but that happens to me sometimes when I'm mixing. I'm thinking, man, I need to listen to this passage. Next thing I know, that whole verse has gone by me, and I realize that I wasn't even paying attention. My mind was off somewhere else. So
Right,
yeah,
right. I hate when it happens.
yeah, yeah,
It happens way too much.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so, and what are some of the other songs on the album that kind of are standouts to you
For me,
that yes, sir.
well, Windy City is a song. It was my favorite song by Sonny and Bobby, the Osborne brothers, and I always wanted to record it. So we recorded that on this album. Um, the title song, "One Tear at a Time," is a song that Guianne McCall and I wrote together. "Cheating Was Good While It Lasted." Aaron Caldwell and I wrote that together, and Aaron is my duet partner on that song.
Awesome.
Oh goodness! "If You'll Hold the Ladder" was a song that
That's,
I learned from Johnny Bush. John learned it. Robert Duvall recorded that song, and he sang it in the movie Tender Mercies.
oh yeah,
And John fell in love with that song. He recorded it in 1986. And I've always thought it was just a beautiful love song. So I recorded it on this project. Rainbow Colored Words is another song that Johnny Bush wrote that we included on this album. A lot of these songs are special to me. Like I said, they're kind of my go-to songs. A lot of them are the ones that I've done anytime somebody put a guitar in my hand and said, sing one, it'd be one of those usually. So they're all kind of precious to me.
Well, there's some great songs. I know that fans will really enjoy listening to that music. So what kind of, you got some shows coming up? What's in the future?
We do.
You?
We've got a few things this month. Let's see. This coming Saturday, we're going to be in Brownwood, Texas, at a place called the Lyric Theater. The following Saturday, we'll be right here in Brady. I get to work here in my backyard. Tracy's having a big honky tonk festival here. I think it's going to run Thursday, Friday, Saturday of the 15th, 16th, and 17th of August, and I'll be performing that Saturday night. And then on August the 24th, I'm having a CD release party in Geronimo, Texas, which is a couple hours from here. And so that's on the 24th. And then I think the 31st, August 31st, I'll be in Bandera, Texas at the Silver Dollar Saloon, which we play a couple of times a year. So awesome. Yeah, we got some dates coming up.
Awesome. And how can everybody find out more about you and the music and get an album and things like that?
There's my website, justintrevino.com. There's also the Facebook, Justin Trevino Official. And then the record label website is heartoftexascountry.com.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you chatting with me today. And
Gary,
I thank you.
Well, I thank you for letting me come on and be with you, man. I really appreciate it and look forward to talking to you again.
Yes, sir. Well, you have a great day and have fun singing that music out there for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Gary.
And there you go, Justin Trevino, very talented guy. Check out his website for more information and that brand new album, One Tear at a Time. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, everybody, always remember to keep the music real.